of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist.
And a doctor.
I'm your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
Okay, so welcome everybody. So Candy, I know that you are preparing for a big family trip.
Yep.
And you had a house sitter come to manage the home and Miss Raina.
Right. So last summer, Yaya's BFF from college named Spike came, and they loved California so much that this is their third time in less than a year. And while they were here, I was complaining about how expensive it is to board a dog when you're on vacation. And they said, oh, I'll come. And so Spike came last night, and Yaya made ribs. And as Spike was eating the ribs, they said, these are so good, I want to cry. And, Yaya's dramatic, her friends are dramatic. So they will be here to watch the house, take care of Raina, and enjoy some California sunshine.
Please be sure to give them my phone number if they need anything while they're
definitely. I am going to laminate the instructions, and they'll be covered.
Right. Okay, great. Happy early bon voyage. It's going to be an amazing trip, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more when you get back.
Yes.
Okay, so what do we got going on today, Candy?
So I have our guest this morning is Charyn Harris, and based on what I've seen, Charyn has lived 1,000 lives. First of all, she went to Berklee College of Music. She traveled with Barry White. She was a road manager for Macy Gray. She's a model. She has a program on satellite radio, Studio 54, where she talks to musicians. And then she also recently started a menopause program for Black women going through menopause called Melanated Menopause. So since she has, and then she had her child at 40. So we have so much we can talk about. Yeah. I'm going to let Charyn lead it, and we're just going to be organic and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
We can go with the fro.
Welcome. That would be like a good
that's
name
a good
for like a podcast or an episode about hair products for Black people. Go with the fro. So anyway, welcome, Charyn.
Hi, Charyn.
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
So good to see you. Thank you for having me here.
Such a pleasure to have you
here. Oh my gosh! And I forgot to mention the most important thing. Charyn's Jamaican.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We always go back to the roots. But you grew up in Mount Vernon, right?
I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. Yeah.
And we had relatives in Mount Vernon. And Heavy D, who's a Jamaican, is from Mount Vernon.
Yes.
So, did you know
Pete
him?
Rock, and we have, we have there was a heavy Jamaican community in Mount Vernon.
Okay.
Hey, Charyn, before we jump in, can I just ask you to scooch over a smidge?
How's that?
Yes. There we go. Perfect. I want everybody to see you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So, Charyn, Candy and I, we really don't have much of an agenda when we come into these things. And because you've lived those 1,000 lives, we want to kind of give you the floor to start where you would like to start. If it's that amazing history or what you're doing presently. So just share with us what's on your heart and mind.
Oh man, what's on my heart and mind? Wow. First of all, I'm just really happy to be here. It's always amazing, with you ladies, and I watch what you do, and I think it's really, really great. And it's really interesting being this age, because I never thought, I'm 63 now, I never thought of what life would be like at 63. But then when I look back over the course, and I have all these, yeah, you could say I've had all these lives, but to me, a lot of them were just experiences and some of them lasted. They were like adventures,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And I think that that's one thing that I really want to encourage women to do is to not just get stuck in one thing. I saw my mom work for the telephone company for 40 years,
Yeah.
and that scared me, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because, that generation, they had jobs, they didn't have careers.
Yeah.
And part of it was them growing up or being born around the depression.
Yeah.
There were not that many options. They never really thought of themselves as leaders, sometimes depending on where you grew up and what your influences were. And it just made me reflect around what an impact our families have on us as we grow up,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really really key. um yeah, so but yeah, it's like I never really thought about, oh, what's it going to be like in my 60s, and how am I going to feel, and how am I going to be? And whenever people see me, they're like, "You're 63," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm 63." But how do you define 63?
Mm-hmm.
How do you define your 60s? And I think that that's something we're living longer,
Mm-hmm.
number one. And I think also with what happens, for instance, in pop culture and how we carry ourselves. Because if you look at the baby boomers and the tail end of the baby boomers, which I am, they call me Generation Jones.
I've
Because
never
we were
heard that
keeping,
one.
yeah, because
No.
we were keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Never heard that.
Generation, yeah, it's like a small segment of the baby
Mm-hmm.
boomers. Um, But when you think of that, Mick Jagger is still on stage in
Yeah.
what is it, in his
80s.
80s now,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the vibrance, the vibrance that we have in our spirit. And I think that that's something that's really shifted over the years. And like for me, having a child at 40, I did not feel like I was 40 having a child. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
that. I never really there are a couple of things I never really attached myself self to. Age was one. I never
Mm-hmm.
really got hung up about age. That's just the number of years I've been on the earth. Um, and I think gender also, like I never really got, I mean, you have male and female, of course, because that's how we're born. And you guys can
Mm-hmm.
still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We got
Okay.
you.
Yeah. I just put a silent on my phone. Sorry. And let me explain. Like, we're born male and female, but I think from where I grew up, we were people first.
Mm-hmm.
And um, of course, you have like what you feel like a man should do and what you feel like a woman should do or a girl should do, a boy should do. But what I appreciated about, we say when you're from Mount Vernon, New York, we say that we grew up in a bubble. So we're friends. We had a very diverse community, Caribbean, we had white, we had black, we had Italian, we had Irish, a
Puerto
lot of us
Rican.
Puerto
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Rican.
Yeah.
Not many people back then from Trinidad, not many people from South America
Mm-hmm.
in Mount Vernon then. We did have one girl who was from Alaska.
Really?
Well,
Was she like an Inuit
she was
person?
Inuit. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
we had one girl in school who was Inuit at that time. We had a family who were, they were Native American.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we knew everybody in the community, like literally, even
Yeah.
our policemen were
Yeah.
from the community, our police
Mm-hmm.
department, our fire
Right.
department. Everybody was from the community, and it made a big difference on how we treated each other, how we cultivated, um, or just who we are and how we showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for me, I made a choice to become a musician. My parents wanted me to go into something else. And I thought about law, I thought
Mm-hmm.
about laws. I really wanted to have a career. And I didn't want to, even though my mom tried to push me to work with the phone company, I was like, no, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, but I made a decision to go into music because I thought it was freeing and I thought it was fun. I didn't think if I was good at it. I thought I was okay, quite honestly, I was okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I was smart. So that really carried me academically. But I think I was smarter academically and I had to catch up musically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, it's just like showing up in these spaces as a woman, as a girl, but not going in, but going in as a musician in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't understand what gender has to do with it. I'm just going to wipe that, because there was this, people would say, oh, do you play like a girl? Do you play like a girl? I was like, how does a girl play?
Right, right.
Because that's really demeaning. If you're
Mm-hmm.
either a good player or
Right.
you're not, you're
Mm-hmm.
either a musician or you're not. Like, for you guys in your profession, you don't have people say, associate it with gender,
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't associate it with gender. It's
Right.
really more about how you show up in that space to do, what you chose to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I just find that music is one of the spaces where they really do get into genders, and but I just never let it get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was really unique. When I look back, I was like, how did I survive in this industry for so long, that was so competitive, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I could still hold my head high, because I always went in with, let me just show up, and just show up really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been my signature. That's been my thing, my superpower, I would say, in this space.
Mm-hmm.
When did you
So
realize you had a musical gift?
I wouldn't call it a musical gift.
I mean, you went to
But thank
Berkeley.
you.
They don't allow people who are so, and I'm talking Berkeley with two E's on the end, which is
Yeah,
an
I did.
elite school for musicians, who, by the way, our uncle went to, and he did the music for this podcast, the intro and the outro.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So when did you realize you were better than okay at music, since you're not calling it
Um,
a gift?
it's you know what? I was just intrigued by music.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I would say, what I learned at Berkeley was music is a science.
Mm.
And I think I may have had a bit of a more linear approach to it, because I was fascinated by the textures and the harmonies, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be an audio major. When I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to really play for anybody. I was like, I think I just want to be an audio major, because I was kind of intrigued by it, until I failed the class. It was like
You
some
failed
type of,
audio?
yeah, like when I first declared my major, I totally failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I couldn't get like, and that's when I really learned my aptitude for things like math. Was not that
Mm-hmm.
great. I mean, I did well in acoustics. We had to take acoustics, and I got it, and and there were things I got, but I also learned a lot about how I learn in college,
Mm-hmm.
because I was a really good student. I was, just really good. I got things, and I was able to synthesize all through high school. I graduated from high school early. I got skipped. So I was always a high achiever there. But music it was humbling for me in a lot of ways, because there were things that I didn't think of. There were things
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't exposed to. Like, I was exposed to really gifted kids here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I can imagine. Yeah.
they
Like
were really,
prodigies.
oh my God, like
Mm-hmm.
I was not a prodigy. I was a hard worker,
Right. Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
I read music a lot, because that's how I was taught, but I wasn't taught to develop my ear. So Berkeley helped me to open up my ear more. It helped me to understand like I said, the science, the theory behind music and why it works. But it also gave me a very good opportunity to observe people, to observe how people learn, to observe how people, absorb different things, and to direct in a way. So that's, I think, when I started a bit of my process of, which led me into teaching and coaching, and really understanding more about how people and personalities can function in this very volatile industry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, for instance, after, as you mentioned, I played keyboards for Barry White, which was fantastic. I was the only female keyboard player to tour with him. There weren't
Wow.
a lot of female keyboard players when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing in the 80s, and in New York, there were maybe less than 10 keyboard players, and maybe less than 20 female musicians, and we pretty much all knew each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even when I went to Berkeley, most of the women were voice majors. They weren't instrumentalists.
Right,
Mm.
right.
So, moving forward and I get the Barry White gig and I still had a lot of anxiety. There were a
Mhm.
lot of hangups that I had about me and a lot of, am I good enough? And I think that's when I was internalizing and as women, as girls, this is something that we do a lot. We're comparing, somebody says something, our feelings are hurt. But I think it shows up different for women than it does for men. And it happens with men also.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But for us as women, we get very sensitive, we get very emotional. I had to learn how to mirror the behavior of the men that I was around. And
Fake it,
that
fake it
helped me
till you
with my,
make it. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, that helped me with my survival. That helped me to
Mhm.
survive
Right,
in this
right.
industry. Like I would show up how they would show up, and they wouldn't show up emotional and crying if something happened or
Mhm.
somebody said something to them.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just had to like straighten up and okay, let me just go in here and just compartmentalize what's going on, and I'll deal with whatever it is later. So that really helped me, but I just really tried to keep my nose down, do my work all through the Barry White gig. But, as I went on and started teaching, I really started thinking about the personalities of people in the music industry. Why does somebody want to be here? Do they really have the personality? Is it really a love of being here? Is it for the vanity of being here? Do they
Mm-hmm.
really feel it internally? Do they just want to be discovered and think that they can make it or something,
Mhm.
which happens for some people and it doesn't happen for
Mhm.
others. But it just helped me to unpack a lot, which was helpful when I went on to teach and I was able to bring out some, really wonderful parts of my students that they didn't think were there and help them build confidence. I learned how to use music as a confidence builder, as something to give people purpose, which was really great. So I ran a music program for almost 20 years. Sophia, I think that's when I
Mm.
met you when
Yeah.
I was,
It
you
was
know,
music ed.
no, well, actually, that was part of it, but I was working with an organization called The Place Called Home. And
Mhm.
then I started Project Mused because
Mhm.
I wanted to do something for kids locally. And I had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids come to my house on the weekends and learn music. And
Mhm.
because I think there's a lot of value.
Mhm.
And it's not about turning everybody into a musician, but I saw where you just become more focused, you become more introspective,
Mm-hmm.
people who have a music or some type of musical background, no matter how long, especially 2 to 3 years, I think they get to see the world in a different place. And I also think it helps with interpersonal relationships because, when I reflect about the arts in the community I grew up in, that was one thing. We had such a strong arts community. Like all the schools were shut down one day and we would have a parade down our main street
In Mount Vernon?
in Mount Vernon.
Really?
Wow.
Where'd you
Yeah.
go to school in Mount Vernon?
Well, I went to Graham up to
Mhm.
third grade. Then I went to
Okay.
Trapegan till sixth grade, 4 to 6. And all the kids every seventh grader and eighth grader goes to the middle school. So we
Okay.
have so every seventh grader goes to one middle school. Every eighth grader goes to, eighth grade together in that year. And then we all start going to Mount Vernon High because we only had
Okay.
one high school back then.
Okay. That's
Right.
like
So,
our elementary school and high school. Uh-huh.
I just gotta throw in this side note. So we have some our cousins that lived in Mount Vernon, and we would spend summers
Mhm.
um, just kicking it around
Yeah.
the Mount Vernon area. And I can't help but think that Sharon, you were probably just a few blocks
We
away from
probably
us.
crossed paths
oh,
Yes,
like
right.
and
yes,
Now,
then
where were they in Mount Vernon? I think you told me and I
it
probably
was
forgot.
220 West 2nd Street
right.
in Mount Vernon, and then they
Wow.
went to uh um Catholic school, Sacred Heart, I think it
Oh,
was
Sacred
called.
Heart. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then
Yeah.
we would, what was the ice cream place? Was it
It was Miss.
Carvel?
Oh, we went to Carvel Ice
We would
Cream. It was
walk.
Carvel.
like
Yeah,
up
that was,
around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Mr. Tyson's little corner candy shop where we
And
got
that was,
Italian
yeah,
ices.
first time we got Italian ices. It was life
Oh yeah, the
changing.
Italian
Mm-hmm.
ices.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because Carvel, if that, I think it was on Sanford Boulevard. Carvel
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
on Sanford
I don't
Boulevard.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
No idea.
yeah. I think I can't. Yeah, I think I remember it. And I remember those. I was sharing the commercials with my daughter, which
Right.
was
Mm-hmm.
really, yeah. Actually, yeah. Carvel's wasn't too far from me. I think there was only one then.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
funny before it became like this nationwide thing.
Right.
It was
Right.
Right.
pretty funny. Um, and Lillian Vernon was in Mount Vernon too.
Oh,
That sold
Lillian,
all the
that
little,
Oh,
catalog lady with
yeah, the
yes.
catalog lady.
where
Yeah.
where where like
They were,
stuff you don't need. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yes.
you
I
buy stuff,
remember
you
that.
buy the Chia Pet, all the stuff you don't
Mm-hmm.
need,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a can opener, it's a lighter, all that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
tent.
yeah. She
It's
had
a
her
house.
factory.
It's a
Yeah.
towel. It's yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
the
my
towel. I
gosh.
mean, how many ways can a towel rack be
Right.
fascinating? But
Right.
Lillian
I
Vernon, I loved her catalog. We all did.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I
but she
haven't
was on
thought about
Fulton
Lillian
Avenue, her place.
Vernon in a
I
long
grew up
time.
on, I know, so I grew up on East 4th Street.
Mm-hmm.
3rd Street was in back of me, and 2nd Street, that had to be close to me
Mm-hmm.
because I lived at 425 East 4th Street. My cousins lived at 429 East 3rd Street. So if it's the 200 block of 2nd Street, that was, and I knew there was a 2nd Avenue also.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but it's a nice, it was a nice community to grow
Mm-hmm.
up in. It was very nurturing. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
close with a lot of my friends
Mm-hmm.
from elementary school. I always tease one of my friends and I say, you're my oldest friend. I've known you since we were two
Right.
years old.
Mm-hmm. So,
So, yeah.
Sharon, let me ask you, and thank you so much for sharing about your journey with music. And it's a couple things struck me. First, the like not gendering music, just you're musicians and like kind of that progressive mindset. And I think of our non-binary population today, and it's like we just are people,
Mm-hmm.
We're
right?
Yeah.
people.
And how you had that mindset from the time that you were a young woman is kind of remarkable. But I also was thinking about what you learned in school, how you learned, how other people learned, and how that shows up in your life today.
Huh. I think I pull back and I observe a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's funny when the book Let Them, for instance. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you've read that book, Let
I've
Them.
heard of it, but I haven't
Yeah,
read
and
it.
I
Mm-hmm.
I I got it and I started reading and I was like, well, this is what I do. I let them most of the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to stick with what I need to do because at the end of the day, I have to wake up with me and feel good about me
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the decisions that I make. And, so I think sometimes my perspective sometimes is very wide. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the
Mm-hmm.
imagination, but I know I'm very patient with people and I don't give up on people very easily when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a learning curve. Because to me, it's just like picking a lock
Right.
or and I say this a lot to people when I'm learning a piece of music, um, or if I'm talking to a student, I'm like, you see a piece of music, say you're learning a Mozart piece or a Bach piece or even a contemporary piece. It's overwhelming if you look at the whole sheet music.
Yeah.
But if you just take it 4 bars at a time, perfect those 4 bars, add another 4 bars on, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a little more patience, but you'll get to the whole piece and it'll be played in its entirety. The point is to not give up. The
Mm-hmm.
point is to not give up. And sometimes you get to the point where you say, you know what, I gave you everything that you need. I don't like to enable anybody that I'm working with by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm like, I've given you all the tools. Now you have to figure out what to do with it.
Right.
I'm handing everything over. So you have to, and I mean, I think I do the same thing as a parent
Mm-hmm.
now that my child is in her 20s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're empowering them you know.
Yeah.
And you're also, through that, you're building confidence, helping them to build their confidence. You've got everything that you need,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
you got everything you need. You're worthy. I think, when I look at those messages, because there were times when I was growing up and I didn't feel very confident. I feel like my parents just really controlled everything. Okay, you're gonna go from here. Oh, you're gonna go to school. Okay, you're gonna go to piano lessons. You're gonna go to swim lessons. You're gonna go to dance lessons. Like there was no time to think. It was just like boom, 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 boom. I was always doing activities, and I understand they want to keep me busy. Oh, and then you have to go to church, then you have to sing in the choir, and then you have to be an usher. And I was like, there was like so much that I was
Mm-hmm.
doing. Girl Scouts, it was just so much. And then going into college, right after high school, it's like, whoa, I felt like I didn't, in retrospect, I didn't have enough time to breathe to figure out who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that can be a recipe for disaster when, in parenting sometimes, because you have to give your child a chance to figure out who they are, and they have to have that chance, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to be there to kind of catch them.
Right.
So, consequently with my daughter, like, COVID hit in high school.
Yeah.
So her high school graduation was online. Her last year of high school was online. She was at a boarding school in New Jersey prior, came back here. She's at the Lawrenceville school, which was great, but came back here and I could see her spirit was really shot. And and just kind of spending that time. And I said to her, look, you don't have to go straight into college. I know that that's the route a lot of kids take. But if you feel like you're not ready, if you feel like that's not your thing, I'm going to support you.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and she's, as she's been out modeling. She's actually on a job right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she enrolled in college finally.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she did it when she's ready, because what I also discovered is that people get there and then they change,
Yeah.
and then they want something else, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not sure I want this. And and I'm just kind of like, and I think that was the other thing when I went into music school. I was like, I'm here, I really need to do this because I'm here, and I said I was going to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my parents gave me that example of, if you commit to something, you
Right.
need to do it. So
Yeah.
Now, with your parents scheduling you for everything under the sun, do you think that that kind of gave you confidence to try new things? Or do you think it made you averse to, it's like, I've done enough. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
you know what, I think it made me, I definitely have been brave and tried a lot of new things.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything. I'm not like a daredevil or anything like that, but I haven't.
Neither am I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. I'm not, I've done parasailing. I'm not going to jump out of a plane. I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
going to do that. But it has, like, I drove across country. I left home. One day I said, you know what? I'd visited California many times, from the 80s and until I made that decision. And maybe in the late 80s, I said, you know what? I think I want to move to California. I just love looking at the beach. I love the sunshine. I love the smell of the fresh jasmine, the night blooming jasmine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was seductive to me, and it was a different life, and it was just very free. And it was very scary to my parents, who were
Mm-hmm.
very structured.
Yeah.
So, but I, they were like, oh, let her go. She'll be back. And what is it, 34 years later?
Right.
Mm-hmm. You haven't come.
Right.
I'm
Wow.
still here. I'm still here. And yeah. So, but I think it's important that we find our way, that,
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of figure out who we are.
Okay.
And speaking of that, I also think, as we are women of a certain age, that we kind of need to find our way at this stage of life,
I was
because
just,
it's
yeah,
it's very different than finding our way when we're 20 and 30.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
like, what does that look like for us today? And sometimes we don't know. We don't have the answer. It's like,
Yeah.
let me just fake it till I make it. Let me just try this and see how it pans out. Um, because you know it can be such a rewarding time to like when you know yourself and you know yourself fully. But it also can be very scary because it's like what's next, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad you said that because I think about that very often. I think about what are the things that I didn't do. As I woke up one day and I said, there are about 20 years that I missed in my life,
Mhm.
about a good solid 20 years, because I've been raising my child.
Yeah.
And I
Mm,
don't regret raising my child. I love that I've been here for her and I've been able to see her journey. And it was just the most fascinating thing I ever did. But there were times, and I would say maybe when she was more of getting into her teens, where I felt a little more lost. She didn't need me as much, but she
mm-hmm.
depended on me. So because of that, her depending on me, um, I had to fall into areas that kind of took me away from what I intended for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And I had to stop doing things that were important to me. And because I wanted to make sure that she had everything that she needed. And
Of
as
Yeah.
course.
parents, that's what we do. We sacrifice.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't regret any of it. I'm just very prayerful that I can pick up and do the things and not feel like, and this is where you get into like, oh, I'm too old for this. Now I am too old for rollerblading. That I will not
Hmm. Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
I'm definitely afraid of, as a matter of fact. And I have a friend who just said, "Oh, I got rollerblades." I was like, "Yeah, no, that's not me. I'm not doing
Hmm.
it." I've been there, done that. I won't go skiing anymore, and I probably won't go ice skating anymore.
Hmm.
Not unless I can get my muscles reconditioned. And
Uh-huh.
but it's like your mind goes through changes, but your body goes through so many changes, and
Yeah.
that's very, very real. Um, so that I think that's the big thing. Like I just started cycling again. I did a little during the pandemic and I liked
Hmm.
it. And my my bike was like locked away while I was doing tour management and stuff. And I got it out and had it fixed. And I've been out on the road doing like 5 to 10 miles a day and working it
That's
up, trying to,
great. Hmm.
yeah, and I'm really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good cardio. It's good to clear my head, and it's good for me to think about, what's next. Like, Sophia, you're talking about traveling and, going somewhere really fabulous. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those are the things that I want to do at this phase in my life. I'm trying
Right.
to prepare myself now for retirement because I don't want to work forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be able to, and I don't want to just be idle either, but
Right.
Yeah.
I don't mind working remotely or, working part-time, but I want to be able to enjoy my life while I'm here, see more of the world, see places that I haven't gone to. Um, Judy, you're talking about going to Jamaica earlier. I haven't been back to Jamaica in so long. It's
Mm.
Hmm.
ridiculous. Most of my well, I mean, I have a good bit of family there, and I have some family in the UK that I visit, and I have some family here, but I'd like to go there, and see my family that I haven't seen.
Right.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think I'm reminded of this story. I was having brunch with some girlfriends yesterday that I've known my whole life, and one just came back from Coachella with her daughter. And another one of our friends, mutual friends, said, "Hey, you realize you're 57 years old? Like, what are you doing at Coachella?" And there's part of me that's like, why would you let a number stop you from doing something that's so much fun? And she's like, I'm just there for the music, and enjoying that with my daughter. And then there are the flip side of that is like, well, I don't want to go to Coachella personally at this age and wait in line for an hour and a half to take a shower. So, and my girlfriend's like, yeah, that's why I get the VIP passes so I don't have to do that at this age. But also, I think people will let that number prevent them from doing certain things. Oh, I'm too old for that. And it's like,
Right.
I'm like, but who says? Like, why? If you want to jump out of the plane, do it.
Do it.
Um,
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like also being mindful of your body, what your body can do, what your body can't do, and training your body for those experiences. But yeah, I don't, even at the certain age, I don't want to feel like something, that my number is stopping me from living my life the way I want to live it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I really think I think the age is just the number of years that we've been on the earth, and I don't think it should dictate anything about your personality, what you
Mm-hmm.
should do, what you shouldn't do. As long as you're healthy, I don't think it should be like, even when there's been a big conversation about dating, dating when you're an older woman dating younger men. Older men date younger women all the time.
Exactly.
I had an aunt, you're going to really appreciate this. Actually my mother's best friend. And she was 45, and I guess, like, yeah, well, she met this, I should have gone back some. She was in Jamaica.
Oh,
Oh,
And she
getting
met
her
a she
groove
met a
back.
cab
getting her
driver.
groove back.
Oh gosh.
She was the original. I always say she was the original Stella. And
Mm-hmm.
she met this man, and had their little fling. I think my mother might have been with her.
Mm-hmm.
She had a little fling in Jamaica with this man. And she went on a cruise, and the guy's like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to come to the United States to visit you." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." So she goes on a cruise, and somebody knocks on her door in her son's home. And this guy's like, "Yeah, I'm here to see, Gladys." And the
Mm-hmm.
guy's like, and the son's like, "Well, who are you?" "Well, I'm Luxley."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh
you
my
know,
That's a
I
God.
Jamaican name.
I know
We
Luxley.
we had an
Luxley.
uncle named Loxley. Yes. Okay.
Luxley
All right.
Gray. Luxley Gray. And yeah, so Luxley came, and he never went back to Jamaica. And he married her. She was 45, he was 25, and they were married for 44 years.
Wow.
Wow.
44 years. She was 89. Yeah,
Wow.
That's
That's a
yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful story.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah. And
really
they
is.
did everything. And I think that, like, she was swimming. I would call her, "What are you doing?" She's like, I'm out swimming." And she told me, she said, "Sharon, whatever you do not marry a man your age. Always marry younger. Always marry."
Wow. Wow.
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to go to some college frat parties then.
Right. Well, I'm not going to go that long. I mean, at my age, I
Oh,
don't think I would do. I mean, I could probably do somebody, 20, 15 years, because if they're 20 years younger than me, they
Mm-hmm.
should have it together at this point.
Uh-huh.
yes, yes.
Right.
They should have it together at this point. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Like, so
great.
somebody in there, where I would prefer, like, I think 50, probably the 50s would be as
Mm-hmm.
young as
Okay.
I would want to go. But we'll see. You never know.
You never
You
know.
never know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You never.
Sh- Sharon, when I met you, your daughter London had just uh, done some modeling for Baby Gap.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she was 2.
That, yeah, and you also have modeled. Can you talk about where in your journey you started modeling, how that came about?
Yeah, so I actually did a little bit of modeling in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an agent, and she was so mean. And I was like, "Oh my God." And she was like, "You need to lose weight." And I lost so much weight. I was
Mm-hmm.
so thin, you could see, like, my
Mm-hmm.
ribs. You could
Mm-hmm.
see
Mm-hmm.
my collarbone, you could see my ribs. And I have pictures. I was like, I can't believe I was that skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And but I never did runway. I did some print in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started getting opportunities to do something in music. And she was like, "Either you're going to do modeling or music." I was like, "I'm going to do music, because I think I can
Mm-hmm.
make more money there."
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought the modeling industry, it was very abusive. It was very shisty. And that was the 80s. It was
Mm-hmm.
really rough in the 80s.
Oh,
So,
everything was extreme in the
oh,
80s. I
oh
can't
my
even
God.
imagine being on tour and it was the like height of cocaine and
Oh my God. There was so much. I saw more in New York, really, than I did anywhere. Like, the parties I would go to, and there would just be, there's like Coke on the table. Okay. And I
really.
never did Coke. I never did
Mm-hmm.
drugs, but Lord knows I was around a lot. And if,
Mm-hmm.
if, if there was a raid to have happened,
Mm-hmm.
if my parents knew some of the places I was in,
Right.
Oh my God. But like I knew who the dealers were,
Mm-hmm.
and oh man. And these were the big glossy New
Right.
York City,
Right.
Times Square, like
Yeah.
Studio 54 type parties that I was
Mm-hmm.
going to, and I'm seeing all the stars and everything, and I'm like young, I'm in my 20s then.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved out here and I started working with Barry, there was a woman, I can't remember how we became friends, but somehow we became friends. And she said, oh no, yeah, no, I don't know how. I don't know how we became friends. But anyway, she, recruited me. She was like, well, would you like to do some modeling? I work with an agency. I work with CESD, Cunningham, Escott, Slavin, and DePini.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, sure, why not? Being a creative, and I just
Right.
moved out here, fine.
Yes.
So
Sign you up.
so I signed with them and I started doing a little bit of modeling. She was like, okay, you need to get pictures. So I was getting pictures. And you're just trying to do everything on your own. You're like doing
Mm-hmm.
your own makeup. You don't really have a stylist. You're trying to put outfits together.
Mm-hmm.
And I booked a couple of things. I booked a JC Penney out here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started doing like some fit modeling. And then there was this lingerie company that that asked me to model for them. And I was like, wow. And they asked me to do their plus size. Is this
Mm-hmm.
company called Shirley's of Hollywood.
Not
And
Fredericks, but
not
Right.
Shirley's.
Fredericks,
Right.
Shirley.
Shirley's.
Uh-huh.
Shirley's of Hollywood. And they were doing like the bustiers and stuff for the
Mm-hmm.
Pussycat dolls also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I did one of their catalogs and I had maybe about 2 or 3 shots in there. Then they asked me
Mm-hmm.
to come back a couple of times and I did a lot with them. So on the
Mm-hmm.
internet, there are lots of photos of me in very beautiful, sexy lingerie
Mm-hmm.
floating around that I'm very proud
Mm-hmm.
of.
Mm.
And
So
I remember seeing some of those pictures, and your hair was so big. You had
oh, they gave me this big hair.
like really big hair. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Okay.
did like
I'm gonna be googling these pictures in a
Uh-huh.
minute.
yeah, they're like clip-ins, and I had
Mm-hmm.
really big hair
Mm-hmm.
and lashes, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
almost like Bridget Bardot,
Uh-huh.
beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I never knew I could look so beautiful.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I never they like there's one where I have like almost like Farrah Fawcett, like very
Mm-hmm.
80s, 70s,
Right.
80s
Uh-huh.
Right.
kind of. And yeah, I don't know where any of those. I just found the magazine. I actually have I have all the pictures. I have all the
Mm-hmm.
snapshots. Somehow I found them online,
Uh-huh.
but I had to like, I was bored one night and I really had to stay up and find them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now,
I did.
what did that do for your confidence? Because we're taught that you have to be a certain size to be beautiful, and here you're doing plus size modeling and feeling beautiful. What did
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
have any effect on your confidence, or has anyone told you that affected them to see you?
Um, you know what? I don't know. I think I've always been pretty confident at any
Mm-hmm.
size. And I actually prefer myself curvier, but I did
Mm-hmm.
have a former boyfriend say to me, he sent me a picture of me when I was like skinny, like bone skinny. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, this is the Sharon I remember. And I was like,
Oh.
ew.
Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
I was like, ill.
Well,
And I was like,
I'm
as
gonna
long as I'm,
forget you. Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, dude, it's not all
Mm-hmm.
about being skinny. I have to,
Mm-hmm.
and, people and men especially don't understand how our bodies change and what it could do to us psychologically.
Right.
But, I just really tried to look at the first thing you see is your face and your skin,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to make sure that my calling card is on point, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then everything else, yes, I have like after when London was a baby, she used to squeeze my stomach and she used to go, I used to say, oh my God, I have to get rid of it. And she would go, Mommy, don't get rid of it. That was my first apartment. And it was so cute. And she
Oh,
was like maybe about 4 or 5. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, Mommy, I like it. And she would just
Mm-hmm.
squish my stomach. She'd go, "Cuh, cuh, cuh."
Mm-hmm.
And
my
I
first
used to
apartment.
love that
That's
so
so
Mm-hmm.
much.
sweet.
And I never had a problem with my weight.
Mm-hmm.
Even I had gone up a lot, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I gain like maybe about 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw that I was starting to have health implications.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I never thought about being prone to diabetes or being prone to high blood pressure or high
Right.
cholesterol or anything. So my doctors are like, you really need to lose weight. You're pre-diabetic. You're pre-diabetic. So
Mm-hmm.
I started losing the weight and I dropped like 70 pounds. And I've been hovering in that area, and I would go
Mm-hmm.
up a little, then go down a little. And I think
Mhm.
now I'm being a lot more intentional, like, okay, now I really need to drop this weight. But I
Mm-hmm.
think I've also been tuning in more to my body, to how I feel. And I was like, I really haven't been feeling well. I
Mm-hmm.
really, really haven't been feeling well. And, then I think last maybe July, August, I was diagnosed with a rare ovarian cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, now this is making sense of why I wasn't feeling well.
Right.
Right.
And I still didn't know because it's called a granulosa cell tumor. But what was happening was, and I'm in my 60s, mind you, my period never ended. My period never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So my period didn't stop until I got a hysterectomy, and it was still coming like every month. Like it would stop for about 4 months and then it would
Mhm.
start
Okay.
again and then would come every month. And I was like, this is insane. And sometimes it would be there for 3 weeks and it was painful. And I was like, is menopause going to happen for me naturally? And my doctor was like, we need to really look into this. And then she says,
Mm-hmm.
your right ovary is enlarged. So they discovered that there was a tumor, and it was slow growing, and it looked like it
Mm-hmm.
had been there for maybe about 5, 10 years. So it
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm.
pretty slow growing, but at the same time, it was beginning to cause more problems. So when
Right.
Right.
they looked at it, they said, "Well, you're still stage one," which I thought was a miracle because
Mm-hmm.
it was like maybe about 3 inches, 3, 4 inches at that point. They were like, "You're stage one, which is great." And then we scheduled for surgery. And then after surgery, he says, well, the tumor ruptured somewhere between our last MRI and the surgery. So that escalates it to stage 1C2, which is still in stage one,
Right.
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 area,
Right.
which is great. But as soon as I woke up from the operating table, I was like, oh my God, I feel like a different person.
Really.
So, what I didn't mention was all of this time, I had just really been feeling bad and couldn't figure out. I thought it was just like, oh, maybe I'm just in perimenopause and this
Right.
is
Right.
how it is.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And, because they talk about the brain fog, they talk about the body
Mhm.
aches, this and that. But it was like, I felt I was going crazy. I really
Mm-hmm.
felt I was going crazy. And compounded on still having a period in your 60s, and my doctor coming back and saying, your AMH, which is your anti-malarian hormone, your AMH is really high. You still have an egg supply. No, I don't want an
Mm-hmm.
egg supply.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't want any of this.
Mm-hmm.
But that is it's a compounded stress that you have, dealing with that.
Of
So
course.
I'm like 5 months past I think I'm about 5 months past my surgery now. But because the tumor ruptured, I still have to go into chemo because it was like 50% observation or chemo. But the protocol is chemo in case there were any floater cells and it could maybe
Right.
mitigate the growth of tumors further. We
Mhm.
really don't know the efficacy
Mm-hmm.
because only about 1,000 women a year get this type of ovarian cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the usual type that will show up in a CA-125, which is the
Right.
usual test for any type of cancers and any type of markers. So the markers here are an increase in hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm still dealing with it, but it's like
Mhm.
it's still not. And I'm in a support group with it and for it, and but I'm still living life as usual.
Mhm.
Still going out doing what I need to do, and I think it's making me like even more like, okay, I need to be very intentional about what I'm eating, about what I'm doing, my exercise, my getting more rest. Like I take weekends off now, which I
Mm-hmm.
never did.
Yeah. For musicians, that's really when you do a lot of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the work, and I had been, I'm not out doing tour management anymore, but for a couple of years I was playing with the church
Mm-hmm.
on Sundays, which was really great because that kept my chops up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so But I still sit down and I play several times a week. I'm just like, I have to keep playing. But it's making me realize like how much I wasn't feeling well, didn't know how to articulate it, and somewhere in between that, and oh, actually, it was because of you, Sophia, that I started a menopause support group.
Tell me about
Okay.
that. Tell
Yes.
me
Okay. So
about
this
Because
that.
is
Sophia introduced me to her high school friend.
Dr.
Dr.
Suzanne
Suzanne
Gilbert.
Gilbert, who's
Yeah.
been on the show. Yes.
Yes, so I, why Denise Pines was running her Wise Paws event,
Yeah.
and I've known Denise for almost 30 years or maybe longer, since I've been in Los Angeles. And I was working with a nonprofit and doing a program around midlife and menopause. And I was just doing this program. It was just very innocent, like, I'm doing this program for a nonprofit because we could do programs. And I started this program, and then I saw Denise was doing Wise Paws, and I was like, Denise, I started this program as a support group. I'd like to come in to Wise Paws, and she was like, oh, just come. She says, like, I'll comp you, just come. I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. So I went, and we all sat at the same table.
Yeah.
Right? We sat at the same table. And then I met, Suzanne, Dr. Suzanne,
Yeah.
and she was like, well, I do a boot camp. She's like, oh my God, you'd be so great. She says, we really don't have a lot of Black and brown women in this community, and we need more women, more women of color to talk to the other women who look like them. And that made me really think about who I was talking to.
Right.
Because some women, a lot of women, especially, a lot of white women will show up for themselves because that's part of what they do. They show up for themselves. But Black and brown women were not taught to show up for ourselves. So, and we don't talk about it in our community. And I started building a support group. There are maybe a little over 400 members in it right now.
Wow.
That's a
And
nice size.
Awesome.
yeah, it's a nice size, and I'm because the thing about menopause is like once you get a handle on it, you may say, okay, I'm okay, or you may say, I still need emotional support. What should I do? I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that, or I need more information. But I think I read it's like something like 6,000 women go into menopause every day. So it's like over 2 million women a year go into menopause. So there's always a need for the education. And the goal is to make it a part of the conversation. Like we learn about birth in high school, but we don't learn about what happens after birth. We don't learn about midlife. We don't learn about end of life.
Very
Right.
true.
And not to be morbid or anything, but that last third chapter of our lives is really significant, and we're just like in the ocean with not even a lifesaver.
Yeah.
We're just like floating in the middle of the ocean, not
Yeah.
knowing what to do, and that's really unfair because especially for Black and brown women, menopause can really trigger other things. We have the highest incidence of heart disease. Among women in this age range, because as we lose our estrogen, and estrogen that's the glue, that's our glue that's keeping everything together. And when it goes away, we get all types of other problems that happen. So we have to exercise more. We get menobelly, we get those other symptoms, over 100 symptoms, really. There's 40 main symptoms, but up to about 100, and they're unique for each woman. So I thought it would be great to just have a source where there's education, where there could be community, and and advocacy, advocacy to speak up, to speak to your doctor, to ask these important questions, to not just accept when they say, no, I'm not going to prescribe you this. I'm not going to give you HRT because, oh, didn't you hear the black box warning that HRT causes cancer? So it's kind of moving beyond that. It's like, how can we live our best lives at this point?
So how do people join your support group?
So they can join a couple of ways. It is a private group on Facebook. So So you can look it up. I think it's under Melanated Menopause Alliance Support Group. You can look it up, make a request, and I will let you in. I encourage people to come in with questions, come in and have, and have conversation with the other women that are in the group. Because I think it's important that we talk about what's going on with ourselves. Somebody else may have something, or somebody else may have a solution.
Yeah.
I don't want to play doctor with anybody with, there are some doctors that are in our group, which is really, really great, and really helpful. We're also on Instagram. And even more exciting is, and I think this is the first time I'm talking about it, is there is a new directory site that I have been building called Menomatch, like Match.com for dating. Menomatch is where you can find professionals and events around, midlife, menopause, perimenopause.
I
So if you
love
want to,
that.
so we're adding podcasts on. So it's menomatch.com. Right now it's online, but it is very responsive as on your phone. So if you look it up on your phone, it is there. So it's it's MENO match, MATCH.
What a
.com.
wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. So
Wow.
really excited about that, because it's like I want that place. Like if I'm looking for a concert, I know where I'm going to go for a concert. But if I'm looking for a menopause event or a blog or just hearing other people's voices, podcasts, we can put Soka up there because it's all about midlife, and other people can start tuning in to listen. So we can put the link in there. So yeah.
Oh, that's a wonderful
No,
resource.
I feel like, Charyn, I feel like I want to have you come back just to talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love
to. Because we had Dr. Suzanne, and we know how amazing and wonderful she is. But I think hearing about these issues from a woman of color, creating this space for other women of color going through menopause, I think that is, can really reach a lot of people, resonate with a lot of people who don't know who to go to. And Candy and I have said it before. We're taught so many things in school. Like we do our sex ed classes, but nobody talks to us about menopause. Like the only thing I knew was watching my mother have hot flashes. That was it.
That was it.
That was it. And that was not much of anything. So to have these resources today is so much more empowering for women going through it than when I first started. So
and we can get ahead of it, and that's the whole goal. So when women are about 35, that's when the education really needs to happen. It's like, I'm going to tell you, this is coming down the pipeline.
Right.
And if you find that you're in your late 50s and it's not happening, you really need to see what's going on then. Because by that time you should be done with, you should be in menopause, by that point.
Yours is a good story to share, because I think because I've known people in their 50s still getting their period, and it's kind of, they like, I guess I can still get pregnant and all of that stuff, which would be a nightmare, but people don't realize that can also be a sign that something's not
right. And my story, and by the way, mine I think is fairly unique. I had one friend actually who had the same exact type of tumor, and we talked about it, and I thought that was a coincidence that I happened to know her. But the other women that I talked to in the group, they just found it, and a lot of them are a lot younger, and they found out that they had this tumor. I don't know if their periods were going on as long as mine have. It doesn't seem that way. So so my story was very, very unique, that's how I discovered that I had this tumor. But I'm glad that we were able to address it, and I'm glad that I was able to move forward. And I feel like I feel 40 again, which is really great. I feel so good, because I mean, I was like, I'm telling you, I wake up some days and I go, I don't know if I can continue living if this is how I feel.
Oh, right.
because I was feeling really bad and I was pushing through and I was miserable and I was drained and I was exhausted.
Right. Right.
You
Not
know,
knowing that you had this thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yours is a cautionary tale because
Yes.
we're taught, or we know that in menopause, things, you slow down, all types of things, you gain weight. And a lot of that, you being ill, was attributed to this phase of life,
Yes.
Right.
to feeling bad.
Yeah.
And it took a while.
And we're also taught to suffer.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're also
Long
taught to,
suffering.
Especially Black women, right?
yes. We are also
You just
taught
power
you
through
just
it.
suck it up and power through because that's what we did, and you'd be
Yeah.
letting down the ancestors if you don't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
we don't have to suffer. We don't
No, we don't.
deserve to suffer, and we deserve, especially Black women. And that's something that we just have to be very adamant about, and just know we're not our mothers or grandmothers,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
I know my daughter's not suffering.
None of our kids are suffering. Yeah.
These kids, they figured it out. They're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Charyn, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to chat with you about the different phases of your life.
Yeah.
And, to see how that's all come together for you and the challenges along the way and the joys along the way. It's been really delightful to have you. And I just thank you for opening up and sharing a bit about your journey.
Thank you.
My complete pleasure. This was so much fun, and
Great.
I'll come back anytime.
Okay.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you.
Charyn, can you tell people about your Sirius show that you have?
Yes. Okay. So I have a show on SiriusXM. It's on Studio 54 Radio, which is channel 54. It's called the Charyn Harris Experience. So what I do is I sit down with people who move the needle in music, lifestyle, and culture. So it's a lot of dance culture, DJs, people in the music industry, people who were hanging out in New York in the 80s. I probably interviewed almost every disco star from Martha Wash to Freedom Williams to CeCe Peniston, Crystal Waters.
Gosh.
I've had some great
Evelyn Champagne King?
I have not, I have not interviewed her, and I want to because her husband was one of my classmates in college. And I'm like, Freddie, come on, I want to have you guys on.
Right.
And she's always working, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy because when you're a legacy artist, it could be very challenging, but I'm glad that they are working, and they are out there in the circuit and are just always busy.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
wonderful.
great.
Which is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we know in regards to melanated melanin, people can find you on Facebook. And
Melanated Menopause. Yes.
Melanated Menopause. And then on Instagram.
Yes. They can find us on Instagram, Melanated Menopause. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, again, just our sincere gratitude for you being here this morning to join us. And Candy, how can our Two Soka listeners find us if they want to chime in?
Two Soka Podcast at gmail.com, Two Sisters of a Certain Age on Instagram, and Two Soka on YouTube.
Okay, fantastic.
I love it.
We will see you next time. Thank you so
See you
much,
next time.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
No Longer Network.